Buried Hearts begins with a broken-down raft with a seemingly dead man's body on it. Another man fishing for an octopus finds the body and steals the man's watch. We then shift to a court hearing where a man named Ha-Il-Du is representing Daesan Group, which is under scrutiny for a discrepancy with an energy project under Daesan Energy. Co Dongju is there and is wearing the same watch we see in the first scene. He's relaying whatever is happening at the hearing to an old man, who is in his home. The man tells Dongju to shut it down. A flashback shows Dongju meeting with Assemblyman Nam Sang-cheol. He offers 2 boxes of US dollars from Chairman Cha Gang-cheon in exchange for adjourning the hearing. But the Assemblyman's nephew finds a hidden camera on Dongju and confiscates it. Dongju convinces Sang-cheol to speak with him in private and reveals a second hidden camera that he attached to Sang-cheol's cat. Sang-cheol gives in and signs a paper confirming his deal with Chairman Cha. At present, the Assemblyman creates a scene during the assembly and has it adjourned. The old man on the phone is pleased with Dongju's work. Ha-Il-Du praises Dongju and then heads to a vast and lavish home where he greets his wife, Dia Kui, who is the daughter of Chairman Cha. Meanwhile, Dongju waits for Chairman Cha in an office. He opens a safe and removes 2 bottles of soju. Il-Du enters the room, and the discussion reveals that he is bitter about Dongju being in Chairman Cha's confidence, while he himself isn't quite there. A flashback shows that when the Energy Project hearings news broke out, Chairman Cha called Dongju before calling Il-Du. At present, Chairman Cha has a drink with Dongju and Il-Du. Diakwi then arrives and asks Dongju to leave so they can discuss as a family. Il-Du says that Yang Jangxian has put forth an offer, which is surprising because he usually communicates through Dongju. Instead, Dongju is soon asked to clock out. Later at the office, we are introduced to Yeo Un-nam, an employee from Daesan Energy. Dongju is called in to see the chairman, but he gives Un-nam a lingering look. He heads inside and is surprised to see the old man from the first few scenes. He is none other than Yang Jangxian. Also present are Chairman Cha and Il-Du. The 4 of them go into a secret room behind a wall and discuss a merger between Daesan Chemical and Yuzion Chemical. Yang Jangxian makes a phone call and says the deal is approved. Dongju goes home and is greeted by none other than Yeo Un-nam. While they have dinner, they discuss Dongju's watch and how it is not the real brand but a fake. Dongju then gets a call from his senior, Chief Ji Hyun, who tells him the chairman's granddaughter is coming home from the U.S. for her wedding. Dongju agrees to help organize it, and Ji Hyun then asks Dongju if he regrets not getting together with the granddaughter. Later, even Un-nam reminds Dongju how he had meant to go to the U.S. and pursue Cha's granddaughter when he came across Un-nam and fell for her instead. The next day, Dongju finds Cha Guk-hui, Chairman Cha's other daughter, waiting in his office. She tells him to stand behind her if he wants a secure future at Daesan, but he stays loyal to the chairman. Dongju then meets with Chairman Cha, who muses on the idea of promoting Il-Du to vice chairman, which doesn't sit well with Dongju. Dongju is told to get feedback from the company's board members for the same. He joins Il-Du on his helicopter and is forced to reveal his mission. After traveling for a few days, Dongju returns and is given a warm welcome by Un-nam at the office itself. But he's quickly pulled away for work, and Un-man's smile fades away. Ji Hyol is annoyed about Il-Du getting the vice chairman position. Dongju suggests a deal where Ji Hyol will recommend Dongju for the head of the chemical sector, while Dongju will recommend Ji Hyol for the president position at Daesan Energy. At home, Un-nam and Dongju soak in a bathtub with candles and rose petals. Un-nam makes cryptic comments about them breaking up. Dongju jokes that if that were to happen, he would take revenge by showing up with another woman on his arm. Later, Un-nam gets angry while on the phone. She comes out to see Dongju collapsed on the floor after eating part of a sandwich. She rushes him to the hospital. A flashback shows Dongju and Ji Hyol discussing a trip to New York for Dongju to deliver persimmons to Chairman Cha's daughter, whose American name is Jennifer Ha. Dongju then sees Un-nam nearby listening to music and is mesmerized by her. She later goes up to him and scolds him for ratting her error on a report to the chairman. As a result, the chairman told her off. Dongju instinctively asks her to join him for dinner. He then tells Choi Ji Hyol that he won't be going to New York. At present, Dongju wakes up in the hospital. We learn that the sandwich's bread had cinnamon and Dongju is allergic to it. Un-nam is upset and says she wanted to make tonight special. Later, they go home and have sex. In the morning, Dongju wakes up to a call from Secretary Gong, who tells him that Chairman Cha wants him to be there at Jennifer's wedding. Dongju gets dressed, but Un-nam is nowhere to be seen. He looks at a box with diamond engagement rings and then texts Un-nam, saying they should have dinner together. He and Chairman Cha arrive at the wedding venue. Dongju then comes across Yom Hui-cheol. He's Yom Jangxian's nephew and also Dongju's old high school classmate, but they don't like each other. Dongju is surprised to learn that he's the groom. The wedding begins, and to Dongju's great shock, Jennifer is none other than Yeo Eun-nam. He's absolutely wrecked seeing her walk down the aisle, and before he can do anything, a group of security guards hold him back. We see Eun-nam getting ready for the wedding. Il-do comes in, and we learn that Eun-nam is the daughter of Deok-hui and her first husband. Il-do was his best friend, and they both were in an accident where Eun-nam's father died. He then reveals that he and her mother know about her relationship with Dong-ju. He asks her if Dong-ju will be a problem, and she says he's not a clingy person. Back to the wedding. Dong-ju is dragged away and thrown in a small room. He gets a text from Eun-nam, which she has scheduled beforehand. She tells him to get his revenge and be with another woman. She deserves it. Soon, Dong-ju is allowed to return to his post as long as he doesn't make a scene. He comes face to face with Eun-nam and curses her. He gives her back the watch, and she reveals that it was the real thing, not a fake. She says she chose this marriage for Dae-san. Dong-ju asks her if she loves him, and she responds that the marriage she wants doesn't require love. She leaves, and Dong-ju picks up the watch. Dong-ju then goes to a church and meets his sister Agnes, who seems akin to a family member. She calls him Stephanus and offers comfort when she learns he was dumped. After getting a call from the chairman, Dong-ju goes to pick up more soju for the chairman's office safe. A flashback to 8 years ago shows Ji Hae-in and Dong-ju meet with Chairman Cha to tell him about the error in the Daesan Energy report. When Dong-ju agrees to have a drink with an egg along with the chairman shows him the safe and the alcohol inside. That's when we learn that Dong-ju has a photographic memory. At present, Dong-ju takes the soju to the chairman's safe, but finds that the code has changed. Meanwhile, the staff at the Cha household makes up the guest bedroom on Eun-nam's request. She later comes across her brother Tae-yoon and her mother and realizes that both of them know about her relationship with Dong-ju. The family convenes for dinner, and to Eun-man's surprise, the chairman has invited Dong-ju as well. In the morning, Dong-ju wakes up with a hangover. He's told that he drank a lot during the dinner. He heads to work and makes for the secret meeting room. Inside one of the walls is another safe, but Dong-ju can't open it either. Chairman Cha arrives and reveals he knows the truth as well. A flashback shows Yeom Jang-seon telling Chairman Cha about Eun-nam and Dong-ju and asking him to kick Dong-ju out of Daesan in exchange for keeping the wedding on. At present, Chairman Cha says he wanted to see if Dong-ju had ulterior motives regarding Eun-nam. Dong-ju tells him the whole story and offers to resign, but Chairman Cha doesn't accept it. Cha then drives himself and Dong-ju to a bakery. One of the employees is Ji Young-soo, a news anchor who disappeared one day. Another employee is Ji Seon-yu, her son and Chairman Cha's illegitimate son. The chairman wants to make Ji Seon-yu an official heir. Back at the Cha house, Deok-hui realizes Tae-yoon is close to Dong-ju. A flashback shows Tae-yoon helping Dong-ju learn how to play the violin for Eun-nam. That's when Tae-yoon learned the truth about him and Eun-nam. Chairman Cha comes home and speaks with Il-do, who insists that Cha get rid of Dong-ju. Dong-ju, now armed with the new safe codes, goes to the inner safe at the office and takes out a bunch of cash and gold. He gives it to Yeom Jang-seon, who recognizes it as payment from the chairman for not firing Dong-ju. Yeom doesn't seem convinced even when Dong-ju says he won't interfere with Eun-nam's decision. Before he leaves, Yeom's right-hand man asks Dong-ju about an issue with a manager from Daesan. Later at the office, Chairman Cha says that the board members think it is preemptive for Il-do to become vice chairman. He appoints Chief Choi Ji Hae-in as vice chairman for now instead. Il-do is clearly bitter and seems to blame Dong-ju. Il-do conveys the news to Yeom Jang-seon, who also blames Dong-ju. Dong-ju then turns up at Manaju's house, following Yeom's instructions. He finds the door unlocked and enters. Inside, a man with a knife attacks Dong-ju. In the midst of the fight, he also sees Manager use dead body. Finally, Dong-ju knocks him out. When a man gets a phone call, he picks it up and hears a man asking if Dong-ju is dead. The man turns out to be Cheon Gu-ho, one of Jang-seon's lackeys. Dong-ju takes Gu-ho to Yeom Jang-seon's house and confronts him. He starts by begging for his life, and when that doesn't work, he tells Jang-seon that he has stolen 39 billion won from the National Patriotic Slush Fund. If Jang-seon lets him live, he'll return the money and disappear. Dong-ju sends a part of the money back and agrees to send the rest once his safety is guaranteed. As he's leaving the house, he comes across Eun-nam and kisses her. When he reaches home, he finds a tracker underneath his car. He then calls a woman and asks her if he can borrow money, a lot of it. He then heads out again, leaving the location tracker in the parking lot. Dong-ju arrives at Myong Tae-jiam's office. Dong-ju reveals he downloaded a hacking program from her website and then had it installed on Yeom Jang-seon's laptop without him or Gu-ho realizing it. They discuss using that to steal from Jang-seon's National Patriotic Fund. He takes 2 disposable phones from her and uses one to call Yeom Jang-seon. He tells Jang-seon that he's sent across another chunk of the money. Jang-seon logs into the account to confirm, and as a result, Dong-ju sees the account password. Dongju then drives to Ji Xianyu and Ji Yongsu's. He tells Yongsu that the chairman wants Xianyu to take his surname. Dongju plans to make that happen and tells her to reach out if she needs help. When he leaves, Xianyu follows him. Later, he shows Chairman Cha a couple of selfies with Xianyu and says they spent some time together. He then asks the chairman if he can take some time off. Cha also invites him along to a family lunch. Nam arrives, sporting a bruised face, which worries everyone. But there seems to be no need since Huichiol shows up with a broken foot, indicating that Nam gave back as good as she got. Huichiol asks her to come back home and grabs her hand, breaking the bracelet on her wrist, which Dongju had given her. It reveals a tattoo on her wrist, matching the one that Dongju has with her name. Huichiol seems to recognize this as well. Chairman Cha senses the tension and tells Dongju to leave. He speaks with Nam alone and tells Huichiol that he will stay there for the time being. Of course, Dongju hasn't actually left, and when Huichiol is gone, he sneaks back in to see Nam. He hugs her and then gives her one of the disposable phones. Nam's parents come to see her. She tells them that the fight between her and Huichiol was regarding Dongju. He knew something was off, and she told him the truth. Her parents try to counsel her to stay with Huichiol. After Nam leaves, somebody sends Diakhui pictures of Dongju and Xianyu together. Back home, Dongju gets a call from Tae Jiam, who tells him that she's ready. Dongju calls Jang Xian and says he sent the rest of the 39 billion won back. Jang Xian confirms that he's received it and tells Dongju to forget the past. After the call, Dongju uses his access to the account to change the password. He calls Tae Jiam and tells her he's paid her fees. We then hear a phone call where Dongju tells Nam that he'll be waiting for her. The scene shifts to a boat in the middle of the sea. After a swim, Dongju gets dressed on the boat and then heads towards the mainland. He waits for a long time and plays basketball with a little boy while waiting. Nam watches from a cab a little distance away. When he calls her, she says she's not coming. She heads to meet him anyway, but Cheon Gu-ho and his men arrive and push her back in a cab, driving her away. Dongju remains oblivious. He heads back to the boat and puts on the wedding suit that he bought. He then records a video of himself playing a violin as he would for their wedding. He even shows the camera her bracelet, which he got fixed. As he sits down to have a drink, another boat arrives, and its driver starts shooting at Dongju. Dongju tries to swim away, but the boat driver, none other than Il-du, manages to hit his target. We then see Jang Xian praising Il-du for getting rid of Dongju and doing so in service of the fund. Although he mentions his body hasn't been found, Jang Xian agrees to transfer money to Il-du for his work, but when Gu-ho tries to access the fund, he realizes what's happened. Jang Xian loses his cool and blames Il-du, telling him to take responsibility. He has drone footage of Il-du committing the murder and now uses that as blackmail. Meanwhile, a fisherman comes across Dongju lying on a raft and steals his watch, thinking he's dead. But Dongju's very much alive and turns up at the man's house and passes out. After having some time to think, Il-du tells Jang Xian he can access Chairman Cha's slush fund account. If that doesn't work, Jang Xian says they will be forced to sell Daesun Energy. At the Cha household, we see that Kaiarman Cha was the one who forcefully brought Nam back. Il-du returns while they are eating and sneaks into the chairman's office, stealing a book which has the code to the inner safe. He then goes to the safe but finds that the code is wrong. He laughs hysterically and then prays for Dongju to come back to life. Back in the fisherman's house, Dongju opens his eyes. As he wakes up from a nightmare, he's in the fisherman's house. The fisherman soon arrives and injects him with something. In the Cha house, we learn that Secretary Gong did see Il-du hiding in the chairman's office when he stole the book with the safe codes. Meanwhile, Il-du and Chairman Cha discuss business. Chairman Cha says that Jang Xian is a leech who keeps asking for more money. For now, he tells Il-du to take some cash from the inner safe and placate Jang Xian with some cash. He brings out the same slip of paper with the safe code and tells Il-du to take a picture. While working out later, Il-du sees a man on the building grounds and mistakes him for Dongju. Diakhui arrives and says Jang Xian caught Nam trying to go on a trip with Dongju. She says they can't kill Dongju, but they need to find a way to get him away from Daesan. Dongju's nightmares continue. During them, someone wearing a pair of shoes walks towards him and calls him Songhain. Suddenly, he wakes up and finds himself bandaged. He tells the fisherman that he's hungry. Meanwhile, Cha Gukhui enters the chairman's office and searches for the safe codes as well. She ends up finding them on a paper kept inside a pen stand. In the morning, Chairman Cha and Il-du enter his office. Il-du tells him the safe code didn't work, and the chairman remembers giving Dongju a new set of codes. He looks for the paper, but finds the pen stand empty and tells Il-du that they will pay Jang Xian after Dongju is back. At the fisherman's house, the fisherman apologizes to Dongju for not being able to take him to the hospital since he needs to stay off the cops' radar. The fisherman introduces himself as Bei One Bei, also known as Jang Il-nam. Dongju introduces himself as Song Hyan, but doesn't seem to remember much. Il-nam shows him the spot on the shore where he turned up, and Dongju gets a few flashes from his memories. Il-du turns up at Jang Xian's house and offers 2 boxes full of money. But Jang Xian knows this is not from the chairman's safe. Jang Xian gets angry with the chairman and says he should consider turning Daesun upside down. Meanwhile, Il-nam gives Dongju his suit, his watch, and Eun-nam's bracelet. He even gives him his phone, which Dongju switches on. Eun-nam gets an unexpected visit from Hui Cheol. Diakwi tells Eun-nam that Chairman Cha wants Eun-nam to return her shares in the company if she doesn't go back with Hui Cheol. Eun-nam rushes to speak with her grandfather, and it is at that unfortunate moment that Dongju calls Eun-nam. Hui Cheol sees the phone ringing and picks it up. He recognizes Dongju's voice and curses him out for calling, leaving Dongju more confused. The call ends when the phone suddenly sparks and switches off. Chairman Cha tells Eun-nam that she can't have both Daesun shares and CEO Dongju. Elsewhere in the house, Hui Cheol gives Eun-nam's cell phone to Diakwi and tells her about the call with Dongju. Secretary Gong overhears the conversation and seems shocked when she hears the name Song Hyan. In the end, Eun-nam agrees to go home with Hui Cheol. At Daesun, an employee tells Il-du that he overheard the secretary's office talking to the Coast Guard about Dongju. Il-du meets with Chairman Cha and tells him that the Coast Guard realized Dongju had hired a yacht and never returned it. Cha tells Il-du to find Dongju as soon as possible. Il-nam and Dongju scour the internet for reports of a car accident, but don't find any information. They then get Dongju's phone fixed. Later that night, Diakwi gives Eun-nam's phone to Il-du and tells him to call Dongju and set him straight. When she relates the incident with Hui Cheol, Il-du looks shocked. He calls the number and is startled to hear Dongju's voice. Dongju, unaware of who is listening, accuses Il-du of trying to kill him. The phone conks off again. Il-du passes on this news to Jang Xian, who is overjoyed that he has a chance to get his funds back. He orders Guho and Il-du to go and bring Dongju back. They head out in a helicopter immediately. Since Dongju keeps thinking he was in a car accident where a car drove off a cliff, Il-nam takes him to the road closest to a cliff face. But there is no evidence of an accident there. Meanwhile, Il-nam finds Dongju's abandoned yacht and investigates it. As he's doing so, Il-nam's boat goes right by it, but Dongju doesn't recognize it or Il-nam. In the meantime, Jang Xian has his men prepare a torture chamber of sorts for Dongju. Guho and his men search the area and learn about Dongju's whereabouts at the phone repair shop. Out in the sea, Il-nam drives his boat by the yacht again, and Il-du recognizes Dongju this time. He jumps into the water to get their attention, and Dongju jumps in as well to stop Il-du from drowning. They call the paramedics, and Il-du ends up in the hospital. Dongju ends up with a fever back at Il-nam's house. But Guho is getting closer to finding Il-nam's house. Luckily, the man at the phone repair shop tells Il-nam that someone is looking for Dongju. Guho and his team find Il-nam's house and storm inside, but no one is there. They find a back door and assume the two have run out that way. After Guho and his people leave the house in search of them, we see Dongju and Il-nam sneak out a hiding place inside the house itself. As they escape for real this time, Il-nam removes his beard, which turns out to be fake. Back in the city, Eun-nam and Hui Cheol go to a suit shop to look at the suits Diakwi bought for Hui Cheol. As they are leaving, they see Dongju at the counter. He is showing a salesperson the suit he was found in and asking her for details about the customer, but she says she can't hand that information over. Eun-nam calls out to Dongju. He looks at her, but doesn't recognize her.